Well, we can get a little more now from our defence and security analyst, Professor Michael Clarke. Hello again to you, Michael. Just talk us through these different stages of the IDF withdrawal.
Yeah, Sam, so we've got the first stage in place. So the IDF withdrew to agreed lines last night, in effect. And that's a straightforward withdrawal. It was easy for them because they've withdrawn back to the area where most of their bases are. And that withdrawal has taken place. If things go well, they'll then withdraw to another line, which is further out. So those are the 5 regions of Gaza that we're seeing on the map now. Most people are moving back to the north. The Israelis are fine with that, but they are still in control of about half of Gaza. So the first withdrawal line still gives them about 57, 58% of the territory, which is straightforward from their point of view. If things go well, they then withdraw to a second line. So the first line is easy, gives them more territory in the south. The second line, as and when it comes up, shows that they withdraw a bit further. And then if things go really well, if there's a peace deal, a permanent peace, then they'll hold just a buffer zone in the south, all the way along the border. And that buffer zone represents territory, in effect, which Gaza will lose. It's still Gazan territory, but they won't be able to do anything with it. So that's what the plan would look like. But we've only got to the first withdrawal line so far, and it's easy to get there. It's much harder to get further on.
Yeah, OK. And just talk us through the various IDF bases that are within.
Yeah, well, that's why that first line is likely to stay for some time. If you look at where the bases are, these are the bases they've established. You can see more bases in the south, more bases opposite Gaza City. So withdrawing to a line where their bases are all inside their own territory now, the territory they control, is very easy. Much harder for the military to dismantle bases and move out. Yeah. If they're ordered to, of course they will. But most militaries are kind of disinclined to move out of areas where they've got fairly secure bases. And that pattern of bases is a very good indication of how long this initial withdrawal line is likely to remain. I mean, it may move if things really move well in the discussions. But so far, the clock only starts ticking from about the middle of next week. Yeah. Until the hostages are released, until Palestinian prisoners are released, and a lot of Gazans, 1,700 who've been locked up since the beginning of this emergency, until they're released, that's when, in a way, the next phase comes into play. And in theory, there's supposed to be an international security force immediately available, and we're not anywhere near that at the moment.
I was discussing with my last guest there, many questions still abound around this international stabilization force. Where are we with that?
Well, the Americans have put 200 people from CENTCOM, Central Command, into the area, into Egypt and also Israel as planning group. And they're people who are specialists in logistics, engineers, medical and civil affairs people. And that's run by Admiral Brad Cooper, who's the commander of CENTCOM, and he's a very savvy political sort of character. And CENTCOM is a very significant organisation. It can make things happen. So, no, that's Brad Cooper.
Hence the name.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Doesn't look like Bradley Cooper.
Yes, not Bradley Cooper, the actor, but Brad Cooper, the Admiral. And he's been quite influential in getting things this far, to be honest. I mean, in terms of thinking through what's going to happen when this big plan goes into operation. So he may turn out to be a pretty important character behind the scenes, Brad Cooper. But none of these people, none of these 200 are going to go into Gaza. Yeah. So a force made up of that is Arab-led, which we assume has got to be from the Gulf, has got to come forward. Now, some of the Arab states are saying in the last 24 hours they want a United Nations resolution to cover them because they don't want to go into a force which may find itself taking on Hamas fighters and looking as if it's working with the IDF. They absolutely don't want that. They're an independent force. If they are an independent force to fill the vacuum between Hamas and the IDF and suppress any outbreaks of violence, then they want UN authority. And I think it's rather ironic, isn't it? That the United States loses no opportunity to castigate the UN for how useless it is. And here you are, the poor old UN, their authority is still needed if you're going to employ a force for America's benefit in creating this peace. So that's where we are.
While we've got you, Michael, we've got pictures coming in from a drone that's going over Gaza City. We just want to have a look at that. I mean, the scale of devastation, and until you see it like that, I mean, it's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
And yet you've got all these people on the move going back.
And that's not military. That's not military destruction. I mean, you know, if there are military objectives, you would expect certain areas and certain buildings to be standing. What the IDF always said is that they attacked buildings that were being used by Hamas. It is impossible to believe there aren't enough Hamas people to use all of those buildings. What the IDF in reality were doing were taking down buildings that could be used at some point in the future as observation posts. So in a way, they were flattening Gaza as a preparation for any other military operations that they think they might want to conduct. And I have to say, some would say there's just a degree of malice in this. Whether it's malice or not, that destruction is not militarily directed. It's directed at a much bigger vision of simply flattening an area that you may feel that you're going to fight in later on.
Regardless, I mean, the size of the reconstruction project
huge.
is enormous.
It's huge. And the Gulf Arab states are going to have to pay for it. And they will not put money in, and a number of commentators have said this over the weeks, they won't put money in to a reconstruction unless they feel there's a viable future and a viable peace. And it is said there will only be a viable peace in Gaza when it's properly connected to the future of the Palestinian people, which means going back to the old two-state solution problem that the Israeli politicians, some of them, have said they won't go back to. So we're still back to this, trying to square a circle. We can have a ceasefire, but reconstruction will only take place when there's a route map to a more general, permanent peace between Israel and the Palestinians, and that's a much bigger problem.
OK. For now, Michael, thank you very much for your analysis.